Are they there now? Are they there now?
We're here, but we're live, I believe. Man on man, we're there. Welcome to the show designed for men, hosted by men, with guests who are men. It is the mailbox, aired every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. right here on Love 101, the family station. I am Courtney Morrison, and I'm without my co-host today. I'm on my own. Kevin, wherever you are, have a great day. But what we want you to do right now is to go tell a brother, to tell another brother that we are live. We're live right now. We're live right now. And we want you to help us to continue to focus as we recognize that it's National Parent Month under the theme positive parenting impacting generations. This week episode inside the mailbox, we're going to have a very interesting conversation on the husband or baby father. We're going to really go into it today. We are going to be looking at what are role differences between husband and a baby father. We want to know, is there a distinction? What if he is husband material wrapped up in baby father clothing? Do we glamorize baby father mother culture too much here in Jamaica? And is it biblical? And the biblical role, or is it the biblical role of a husband just too much for some of our men and fathers in Jamaica? Is that biblical role too much? We're going to be investigating all these questions today. So we thank you for joining us. We hope you had a very good weekend. We hope you had a very good time. But to help me this evening in helping you to understand, in helping you to demystify or anything that is happening here when we talk about baby father culture versus husband role, I have none other than the man himself, the Reverend Teddy Jones. He's a certified life coach. He's an author. Yes, he's a father. Yeah, man. One time dread with long hair and him turned bald head. And him know Sister Samson era grow back. Yes, he's an entrepreneur, a good friend of mine, and he's here with us this evening. He is Teddy Jones, as I said. Teddy, welcome this evening, this afternoon to the program as we jump into the topic husband, our baby father, you know.
Well, go on, Courtney.
Yeah.
Blessings, bro. Blessings. And greetings to all the listeners, wherever you are. Big up, Mandem. And greetings to
Monday.
the Mandem.
Monday. We're going to be looking for an in-depth look at what it means to be a baby father as opposed to husband. Are the terms interchangeable? I've heard them being used interchangeably, but we don't want this to be a stuff coat thing. We want you men to be listening, ladies. We want you to go get the husbands, the boyfriends, the uncles, the nephews, the niece, anybody. It's time. The mailbox is on. And we want you. This topic is interesting. As we said, we are focusing on National Parenting Month, and it's positive parenting impacting generations. Does the baby father culture do something about impacting generations? We want to know, and we're going to find out. So, man and man, remember, we want to hear from you because we know this topic is one of interest to the man them. Yes, right here in Jamaica. We are live on Facebook and YouTube at Love 101 FM Jamaica. You can leave your comments via our WhatsApp line at 876-997-3125. Women, remember, you can participate in the program by leaving us a message via our WhatsApp, Facebook, YouTube pages. Females, remember, no calls or voice notes allowed. We leave those calls up to the men because we really want to hear from the men. What are they thinking about this baby father versus husband? Or should we embrace both? we want to hear a bit more. So remember, you can leave a text message at 876-997-3125. Women, remember, you can leave a text message there too. This is the mailbox. On the other side of this break, we're going to find out if a woman should submit to her baby father. Yes, if a woman should submit to her baby father, and so much more. We're going to take a break and we're going to come right back after this. Much more. Let's go. I'm not sure we're on a break. So let's continue to jump into it as we are here on the program.
More fire, more prior. To 15 inside pieces of the past, as we continue to celebrate National Parents Month, we look at things Jamaican parents of the past used to say and what they really are saying. Then at 3 p.m., we bring the curtains down on the feature meant to talk with part two of the best of the series. So be sure to send us a message sharing your highlights. All the Zingo will come alive 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. this Throwback Thursday with me, Sarah, and the Chirpy One for the family station, Love 101. DJ Sella what we know, holy for something like the 7 gigabytes of YouTube data. You know it when you activate a 7-day digital prime bundle and a whole heap more any use data, moving from 6 to 8 gigabytes. Plus you get 49 gigabytes to enjoy more sports, music, and movies with digital apps. I really holy what's up that for the same price, only $850. Activate your 7-day prime bundle in the My Digital app today. Digital, better together.
Music is the soundtrack of our daily lives. It drives business, it entertains, and we are that crucial link between the makers and users of music. We are Jams, representing local and international producers, labels, and performers, providing global coverage in the collection of airplay and public performance royalties for the best of the best in the music industry. We deliver results. We deliver royalties. Find us at jamsonline.com or call 876-978-1010. Jams, we stand up for music rights. I am a man, I am a man, I am a man, yes, strong man. I am a man, I am a man, yes, strong man, integrity man, I am a man.
Yes, yes, yes. We are men, and we're there, man there. Welcome back, welcome back. You're listening to the Mailbox Live, or you may be viewing us on our YouTube or Facebook page. Thanks for joining us. We're here to discuss a very exciting topic, an informative one that will empower and challenge, I hope, as well. And so I'm Courtney Morrison. I do not have my co-host with me, just in case you're wondering. Kevin is not here. He's off enjoying himself. But today inside the mailbox, we'll be zooming in on the topic, husband or baby father. Today we're going to find out what are the roles between a husband and a baby father. What are the role differences between them? Are there differences, or is it that we call baby fathers husband and vice versa? What if he is a husband material wrapped up in baby father clothes? Could the husband also be just a baby father wrapped up in husband clothes? We don't know. We have with us a guest today, a very knowledgeable gentleman, one himself who is a husband, a father, an author, an entrepreneur, one who I know is a lecturer as well. He is very brilliant, and so he knows this. But just before we get into what he says, I want to thank Fellowship Tabernacle Portmore. Over the weekend, they celebrated 19 years of being a church. And myself and Karen, my wife, for the past 30 years, we're honored as the pastors for the past 13 years. And so I want to say thanks to the leadership, Pastors Auden and Paula, and to the entire Fellowship Tabernacle crew who did it. Indeed, it was a good time, and we thank you for the gifts. We thank you for all that you do. It's always great when you have those who appreciate you. And so we really, good evening, Alvarine Ellison. Thanks for joining us. We really want to tell you thanks Valerie Bowen also. Thank you, ladies, for joining us. It's good to have you joining. Pauline Williamson, good evening to you. We want to get right into the meat of the matter and the discussion points that we want to look at. Teddy, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background. Firstly, did you grow up and always want to be a husband? That now that you're a husband and father, how did you understand the role of husband? We want to hear a little bit about yourself. How long you're married? How many children? Just tell us a little background into who you are before we jump directly into the topic.
Courtney, interestingly, I've never really thought about it that way. Like whether growing up I always wanted to be a husband. Not always growing up, but certainly from about college years, community college years, you start thinking about that. But I grew up with my stepfather actually. Early years with my grandparents in a more of an extended family setting, and then moved with my mom and my stepfather when my mom got married. Met my dad when I was 8 years old. Right? So, let's go back a little bit. So I was born in Trinidad.
Yes.
My mom is from Grenada. So when I was 3, mom moved back to Grenada. My dad stayed in Trinidad. And then he eventually came back to Grenada as well. So I met my dad, my biological dad, when I was about 8 years old. So growing up, it was predominantly my stepfather, but I got to see that man love my mother. Yeah. I got to see my grandfather love my grandmother. And the majority of my uncles on my mom's side were married. And then later on, as I got to meet the uncles on my dad's side, most of them were married as well. So growing up in a small village on this tiny island of Grenada, where almost everybody is kind of related and you know almost everybody, but a very close-knit community. And the majority of persons would have been practicing the nuclear family. Marriage was a big thing. It was a huge thing in the community. Somebody getting married, the goats are going to be there, are going to be killed. The pig is going to be killed. All the chefs from the community going to be coming out and cooking that food, and it's a huge celebration. It's a big community affair. So there was definitely a very strong communal influence in the direction of marriage. So as you got old enough to start to think about life in that way, there would definitely have been that socialization in that direction. I did have my own struggles with what we've talked a lot about here on this program as well. The father wound, not growing with my father. And that affected me, in a very unusual way, different from a lot of others. So I didn't have the negative, the baggages of choosing the path of maybe violence or misdemeanors and so on. But my whole sense of self and self-love and self-worth was indeed affected. And I wrote about that in my book, 30 Days to Greater Self-Love. I love me, 30 Days to Greater Self-Love.
Interesting, Teddy.
Hey?
You're a Trinidadian Amiz.
A Trinidad Jammies.
Yes. But
Right.
you grew up envisioning and having placed in front of you the loving, caring aspect of marriage.
Right.
And so that influenced you greatly.
Yeah, man. So I got married in 2012 to a Jamaican girl from Portland, of course.
Why Portland, of course? What about Portland so special?
Pick up all those from Portland. Yeah, we got married in 2012, so we're coming up on our 10th anniversary next March 25 next year. Yeah, thanks. And we have one son who is now 7. And, one of the blessings of the pandemic, there are many blessings with the pandemic. One of the blessings of the pandemic is not child number 2, who we're expecting in February of next year. Yeah, and it's been a real tremendous journey for me. I deliberately made a commitment to myself and to God and to my wife that all the negatives, or whatever deficits I did not have, whatever negatives, they end in my family. They end with me. They will and they must end with me. And I want to ensure that my son becomes a better man than me. So it's been a tremendous blessing raising a son. Hoping that the second one is a girl. We'll know in another couple of another couple of weeks. But if it's another boy,
I tell you the formula. My first three were girls. I tell you the formula.
we need to talk. Yeah. So yeah, so that's the family, and fathering, being a husband, it's a
Yes.
tremendous blessing. It's a privilege, a responsibility that I take very, very, very seriously.
I like the word you used, blessing, because sometimes the word responsibility feels burdensome. So when we
Yeah, no,
see,
it's not a
yeah,
burden. It's a
yeah,
privilege. It's an honor to be
yes,
blessed, to be a father, to be a husband,
yes,
to partner with someone else in shaping the generations to come. Because it's not just this child that you are shaping.
yes,
All being well, they will have children as well. So you have an opportunity to impact lives, the generations yet unborn. No, I mean that's a blessing, Courtney.
yes, very important. I heard you saying you took an intentional and deliberate approach in how you addressed stopping any of those deficits that you saw
Yep.
before. You are now entrenched in the Jamaican culture, and
Yeah.
you're seeing what we tend to call a gallus culture
Mhm.
round about us. Did that affect you in any way? How did you address it? Did it cause any shift in your focus? What happened there? You think that is what is affecting our Jamaican men, this gallus culture? Did it affect you, and do you believe it's what's shaping our culture here in Jamaica, the baby father role?
Yeah, it's a significant part of what is affecting, contributing to a number of the sociological problems that we are facing. And mind you, it's not unique to Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
In the Eastern Caribbean, we don't refer to it as Gallis. That's a unique. Jamaica has its own unique
Yes.
style and language and so on. So that's uniquely Jamaican in terms of the phrase Gallis, the Gallis culture. But the culture of masculine promiscuity, it's not unique to Jamaica, right? Some people say, well, it's perhaps most prevalent in Jamaica. I'm not sure about that because as a lecturer in sociology and Caribbean family life, we look, for example, at the common threads and the common antecedents
Yes.
that affect, that have formed and shaped Caribbean societies. And those who have studied that across the different societies, there are some unique features as you look at a Trinidad and a Guyana, where there's a greater percentage of persons from the East Indians
Yes.
mixed in with those from the African continent. So the dynamics are a little bit different, but you observe the same thing there. It is something that I had to confront, particularly from a discipleship point of view, both
Right.
discipling persons at the congregational level and discipling persons at the community level. So having the background from sociological studies and so on, you understand, okay, yes, for example, there was a point in time when blacks simply were not allowed to get married in Jamaica because blacks, yeah, a lot of people don't know that, because blacks were not considered to be humans, and only a human being can enter into a legally binding arrangement, because there is the legal aspect and the religious, the sacrament aspect to marriage. So because blacks, the formerly enslaved, were still considered to be subhuman, blacks couldn't get married. And then the wife of the then Governor General, Lady Huggins, There's this road in Grand Spend, Lady Huggins Avenue, named after her.
Oh yes, know it.
Right? When the legislations changed, she went about encouraging, trying to get a lot of former enslaved persons to get married, and there was the mass marriage movement that came about under the late Lady Huggins. So we're coming from a point in time when Black men were considered to be studs and the property of the plantation, the plantocracy,
Mhm.
and our value was only measured in terms of how strong we were, how virile we were, how many more offsprings we could produce for the planter class. We're coming from that. We're coming from not even being allowed to be married. We're coming from the Black men being ripped apart from their families, the entire family structure deliberately disrupted, and coming to the point now where, okay, now we can get married, and now the very institution that restricted marriage access
Yeah.
from our men is now having to trying to encourage our men to be monogamously faithful,
Yes.
right? The total opposite of the very thing that they were supporting and facilitating. I remember the church of the plantation was very much, pretty much along with the ethos of the plantation. And now the church is having to play a role on the other side of trying to get our men to be faithfully monogamous. And so a lot of our men, and we can argue as to whether, well, the argument, well, slavery was abolished a long time ago. Let's just get over it. Is it as easy as that, as just getting over it, when something has been sociologically, we've been socialized in a particular way for so long? Are our men still being impacted by that? It's a moot point. But the reality is, much of the male's identity in the Caribbean, and let's stick with Jamaica here now, is
Yeah.
defined along the lines of his sexual prowess.
Interesting, Teddy. You're not the only one who have proposed this, and we thank you for the history lesson. We thank you for the socioeconomic background. Dr. Herbert Gill
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
is one who will tell you that even in Jamaica, it wasn't until after independence that Black men were even called fathers.
There you
So
go.
it's interesting because what you just shared with us, and I'm hoping that our men are listening, that Blacks were not allowed to marry.
Right.
And so I believe with you, and I share with you that it must have had a great impact on our culture
Yeah.
here in Jamaica and as Black men, as Africans, that we were only used as studs.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Gale expressed that, guess what? The Black man was not even allowed to take care of the children.
Exactly.
I don't know. Speak a little bit more to
Yeah.
that, so,
Yeah.
so that we have an understanding of this baby father culture, because
Right.
we want to get into some of what we
Right.
want to
Right.
find out a little later as to how to
So
correct.
to this very day, the typical African culture is still heavily male centered, yeah, and strong values of the males of the family passing on the values and the cultures and the teachings to the younger males. The family is centered around the males, and I'm not here promoting patriarchalism in terms of
You're just giving us the
ordinary
history.
women, and no, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the males understanding the place that they have in the family and standing up, right? So those hauled and uprooted from the African culture, where they have rites of passage, for example, right? Where they are deliberate about shaping and forming boys into men. I've been to Durban, for example. Amanzim Toti in Durban, in South Africa. A predominantly Zulu, the Blacks there certainly predominantly from the Zulu tribe. And there is still a strong sense of that.
Wow.
They came from that, and they were brought here, and those who brought them here did everything systematically sought to destroy that. So the physically strong males were handpicked. They were auctioned off, and they were used as breeding stock. When they're those on the plantation, the child is born, a male child especially, that male child is taken away, right? The woman bears the children, and he's moved from that domicile and taken to another plantation, for example.
Right.
So there was that. Over time, I mean, again, we can say, to what extent did that possibly contribute to breaking a strong culture of male responsibility in the family, to fostering over time the absence of that, where males are absconding? Right? But Courtney, there is another thing in this mix here now. I saw the discussion from yesterday after MP Clark's presentation in Parliament about the
paternity test. Yes.
But a part of what is emerging when the U.S. Embassy began to put out statistics about the number of failed DNA tests as part of the filing process, immigrant filing process, I'm not hearing much discussion as to the implications of those statistics. Because if it is that so many of our men are discovering that they are not the father, the narrative of the wildness of the Jamaican male now has to be expanded to a narrative of the wildness of the Jamaican people.
Yes.
On a whole.
Yes.
And then one could again ask, well, is it a case of the chicken or the eggs? Are our women, or did our women respond to the promiscuity of the men in kind?
Dr. Herbert Gill also put forward the proposal and the thesis that Jamaica is one of the few nations that we will also have a female who has 4 different children with 4 different surnames, because as well, the plantocracy thought that she was also just to breed.
Right.
And so
exactly, there was that as well.
Of also getting financial assistance and being a part of the great house.
Yes.
Before we go any further, because we're coming up on a time signal, for those who are just listening, you need to join. If you have not yet joined, those who are friends, please call your friends. We're getting an issue. We're talking about the role of husband versus baby father, and we're getting an interesting history lesson here. On the other side of the break, we're going to be hearing, how do we change the baby father culture? Is it something that needs changing? Is it something that is correct? Is the role of husband as biblically taught too much for our men? We want to know. And so, coming up on the other side of this break, we're going to be dealing with that. We're talking to the Reverend Teddy Jones, author. He's an entrepreneur. He also is father and husband. Big names, them two there, father and husband. And so we take a break and we come right back to discuss some more.
Integrity man, I am a man, I am a man, I am a man. The Jamaica Customs Agency continues to ensure the viability of Jamaica's economy and has instituted several trade facilitation measures for the export sector, including processing of export declarations upon submission, removing the need for doc receipts, rolling out the electronic export manifests for shipping lines, piloting the AEO Exporter Program for compliant exporters, spearheading the electronic single window for trade J-Swift project, and collaborating with other entities to implement the paperless exporter registration process and online payment services, as well as removing the need for licenses and permits from certain items. Exporters, we value your contribution. Let's keep the wheels of trade turning. Jamaica Customs, keeping our customers in focus.
I'm the Reverend Newton Dixon. I belong to the African Methodist Episcopal Church, and I'm the president of the Jamaica Council of Churches. I'm vaccinated. My fellow Jamaicans, we have this wonderful gift from God called science. Science has assisted us to address the quality of our lives and to provide wise choices as we live in the world. From telecommunications to construction to transportation, science has enriched our lives. No less has medical science. And now we hear from medical science that 90% of our people who come to hospitals infected with the COVID-19 virus are unvaccinated. This is not just a scientific fact for me. This is a common sense basis for a decision to get vaccinated. So please, brothers and sisters, get vaccinated.
Are you ready for another exciting Jones Out Alive 1 to 5? Oh yes! This Throwback Thursday, November 11th, will be another time to recollect and reconnect. Stick around for Power Blast at 2 o'clock. More fire, more prior. To 15 aside pieces of the past. As we continue to celebrate National Parents Month, we look at things Jamaican parents of the past used to say and what they really are saying. Then at 3 p.m., we bring the curtains down on the feature Met Put On with part 2 of the best of the series. So be sure to send us a message sharing your highlights. All the more will come alive 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. this Throwback Thursday with me, Sarah, and the Chirpy One on the family station Love 101.
Here's a vaccination message from the family station. Possible side effects from the COVID-19 vaccines throughout the body include tiredness, headache, muscle pain, chills, fever, and nausea. Side effects on the injected arm include pain, redness, and swelling. My name is Daniel Downs from Love 101, encouraging you to get vaccinated. Let's get vaccinated and get back to that.
Here's why you can't afford to miss the Morning Watch.
I love listening to the Morning Watch because topics are discussed and issues are highlighted that are of major importance, which in turn edify me.
The Morning Watch, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays.
I like listening to the Morning Watch. I find it very informative. I find it very interesting. The topics that are covered are very, very wide.
The Morning Watch, thought-provoking, insightful, current. Listen for the probing questions with Attorney at Law Stokely Marshall and the in-depth discussion with Reverend Dr. Dallin Toussaint. The Morning Watch, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. The Morning Watch is on the family station Love 101. Every first and last Tuesday, the Morning Watch is brought to you by Home and Things, your construction finishes superstore.
I am a man, yes.
Welcome back to the program, The Mailbox, the longest running mail program in Jamaica for the past 8 years and will go into 9 years. Has really lasted consecutively and has not had a broken season. We're talking to none other than Reverend Teddy Jones, author. He is an entrepreneur. He's a lecturer as well. He's a socio-economic individual. He can relate to any topic. And the topic we're talking about today is the role of husbands versus that of baby father. Good evening to you, to Marcia Thompson. Thanks for joining us. We want the men to remember, though, that we also want to hear from you, Katie and Urquhart. It's good to have you. Greetings, blessings. They're giving you a heel up, Teddy.
Yes,
you know,
man. I've known Kenyan for quite a while now.
You know him.
Yes.
Baby father is the most degrading term to call a man. I refuse to be called that, says one man. Please remember, you can call us on our studio lines at 876-968-8327. That's 968-8327 or 8, area code 876. Or you can WhatsApp us and leave us a text message at 876-997-3125. Remember, text messages are reserved for our women, but the phone calls, men, do that. Send in the text. This is your program, and we want you to be fully participative in this program. We were discussing the background of our slave culture, where the man was the breeder and the woman was bred. Uh, Teddy Jones, Rev,
Yeah.
my friend,
Yes, man.
tell us a bit more about this. We want to ask, who is a husband and who is a baby father? I saw Sir Atutumbe saying it is the most degrading term you could call a man. You have gone a bit into the history of what happened, and the men weren't to bear responsibility for the children, nor was a black man allowed to be married. Husband versus father. Define, tell us what you believe they are, and let us see how we can move forward into solving some of the issues.
Right. Yeah. So I think the main difference, I would say, is the man who has fathered the child has decided, I think it was same Marvin mentioned that it boils down to choice, has made the choice to raise his child or his children along with the mother of the child or children within the context of marriage, where there is a decision made to have an exclusive relationship, a relationship where the responsibility of faithful monogamy is shared by both. So within one's culture, whatever is the culturally accepted and defined definition of marriage,
Yes.
and well, and as I said that, I had another thought, but I'll leave that alone for now. That he joins with the mother of the children into a covenant, the covenant of marriage. So it goes beyond just fathering a child, impregnating the woman.
Right.
But he takes on the additional responsibility of being provider, protector, companion, present, so that he has a presence with mother and with children. It implies typically cohabitation.
Right.
And again, we're going to have to make the distinction between, in our culture, what we call common law marriage and marriage. And we don't want to cumber the discussion with the distinctions that exist between common law marriages and marriages, because even in the common law marriages, the term husband is used, but I think perhaps there is also maybe much greater usage of the term baby father within the context of common law marriage, although some persons do use husband. But to contrast the baby father with the husband, it is the one who has decided to go the next step of getting married, giving that covering, that honor to the mother of the child, giving that presence, the present of his presence, to help raise the children within the safety and the context of the safety and the covering of a marital relationship.
You use a big word, and I'm not sure if all our listeners, our viewers, are cognizant of what that word is. Monogamous.
One burner, one husband to one wife, exclusive. In the marriage ceremony, we typically lead the couple into a recital or an affirmation of forsaking all others and keeping yourself only unto him and keeping yourself only unto her. Serious, very, 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 very serious words. I mean,
yes.
Big commitment, a huge pledge. So there is that decision to embrace this covenant where I am entrusting myself to you, you're entrusting yourself to me, and together, this is the space that we are carving out to raise our children together.
So a baby father, would you say, has the freedom of having multiple baby mothers, if we want to use those two terms per
Yeah,
se.
so
So it's not a commitment to anyone.
I, I, I don't want to generalize at all,
Right.
because, frankly, Courtney, frankly, in reality, on the ground, there are some situations where it's a baby father and a baby mother, in that they are not married, but they do have that exclusiveness with each other, and they do practice the you alone and me alone, even more so than married couples. So I will not make the mistake of giving the impression that uh, persons who are in a baby father, baby mother situation cannot and do not practice faithfulness to each other. Because in truth and in fact, sometimes some persons who are not married are even more faithful to each other than married couples. So there is that, right? But also on the flip side, in reality, how persons define their relationship, many have that as an understanding. All right. So one, they were together. The pregnancy may have been planned or unplanned. The pregnancy is there. They decide together that they are, or whether or decide together, or one, or the woman decides on her own that she's going to carry this child to term, and this man is now the baby father. Relationship ends. Unfortunately, a lot of our men, the moment the lady says, "I am preg," she not even get to finish the sentence to say pregnant. The moment that by the time the man hear, "I am preg," man gone. Man disappear like a snow cone in the hot sun. Right? But he bears the title or the reference baby father. So by in terms of what happened with the relationship, there is no assumption or presumption of any commitment. Sometimes there isn't even an expectation of contribution to this child in any way, just by virtue of what happened when or post pregnancy. So there are all kinds of mixes in reality on the ground. Sometimes they agree, okay, we have a child together. I am the mother of this child. You are the father of this child. You are baby father. I am baby mother. I have moved on with my life. All we share now is that we have a child in common. The man may or may not be contributing to the well-being and welfare of this child. So there are all kinds of mixes, Courtney, which, I mean, certainly are not as ideal as the ideal situation where there is husband and wife sharing the family, sharing the home, sharing the raising of the child or the children. And as you said, for economic means, a lot of our women find themselves in a situation where they have multiple baby fathers. And it's a very interesting dynamic. I have seen situations where these men who are baby fathers hold the woman um, at ransom, insisting that they will only support the child or the children if they continue to retain access at will, at their will, and on demand to this woman sexually. And a lot of our women, they feel that, well, they have no choice but to give in to that so that they can access the economic support of the woman. I find that particularly despicable and repugnant, Courtney. The
Yes.
men who subject our women to that, we used to do this thing on the mailbox where we say junk mail that,
A junk mailer.
junk mail that.
If you just joined us, we're talking to Reverend Teddy Jones. We're talking about husbands versus baby father. Is the church playing a role in helping to maintain the baby father culture or to change it is the standard of the church and being a husband too high for our men to attain, or is it something that our boys to men must really strive towards achieving? What do you think?
That's a very interesting question, Courtney. A lot of our men are avoiding marriage. I have spoken to a lot of men who have been in common law relationships for years, lots of years, raised children together, and like I said, practice monogamy. They commit themselves to this woman that they have their children with, but then just now get married. I think we perhaps have helped to create a sense of marriage as some mystical
Happily ever after.
something out there that it's like
Perfect.
walking a path that is filled with sharp swords and all kinds of what do you call this? Landmines. Yeah. And what is not helping, Courtney, is the reality of
Yes.
the high divorce rate among
Yes.
Christian persons. So there are a lot of our men who are almost terrified of marriage.
Yes.
What I think we certainly need to be doing more of, and this is something I'm constantly encouraging persons within churches to do, those who have managed to maintain solid marriages over the long haul need to take youngsters from they hit puberty, take them under their wings. I'm huge on discipleship and mentoring, as you know, Courtney, and this is an area that we can do so much more in. Bring them into your space so that they can see modeled before them, not a booklet, not a manual, but up close and personal. See life at work. See a couple who have managed to stay together at work, doing life together, doing marriage together. So you take them on a journey where they get to see you in a real life setting, modeling before them how a husband treats his wife, how a father treats his children in different settings and different contexts. So we have to be far more deliberate about modeling what it means to navigate life and be real. Men of the church who are married need to hold some reason with some man out a road and say, brethren, yes, I, as a married man in the church, yes, I did not always have eyes only for my wife. There was a time when I was at work and there was this secretary at work who I started falling for, and this is how I dealt with it. A lot of times we are too fake.
The vulnerability. Some men will tell you when we become vulnerable, the very society is going to ostracize you instead of helping restore. I want to take two comments. One here from Jacqueline from Clarendon. Good evening to you and your guests. Blessings to you and everyone at Love. She's saying, interesting program. Always learn something. Jacqueline from Clarendon said, I miss Mr. Bailey. Kevin, you're missed. You need to return quickly. Suzette says, good evening, mailbox. I will not submit to someone who don't want to commit. And Cherry from Spanish Town says, good evening, gentlemen. Thumbs up for such a wonderful program. My daughter, father, and I are not together. I refer to him as my child's father. My daughter's father. I hate that term, baby father. Something that Suzette said here. Should a woman submit to her baby father? We have this from scripture in Ephesians. A wife should submit to her husband. Should a woman submit? A woman who has given birth to a child for a gentleman called a baby father. I really don't like the terminology. Should that woman submit herself to that man?
I mean, it's you see, and again, you see the context of that Ephesians passage. Context is the context is about marriage.
Yes.
Because right before that, it says to both husbands and wives, submit yourselves to one another out of reverence for Christ.
Right.
So the context itself it implies marriage. How
Right.
do you transpose that to a non-marital situation?
But is him giving the money? Is him taking care? Him sending off all of the things? So what is the pre-requirement for submission?
That's where the dynamic becomes so complicated.
Yes.
Because by virtue of doing that, he feels that he deserves to be respected. But what exactly do our men mean by, how do they interpret that submission? A lot of times, submission is interpreted along the lines of domineering and controlling. So I find that it's a passage that our men seem to be very much in love with. But it is not interpreted from a perspective of that here is a relationship that you are called to be a steward of. Here is a relationship where you are called to be protector and a nurturer and a provider, not one where you are called to be domineering and manipulative. Because certainly if you are providing money, yes, to support the child, but you are not giving basic respect to this woman, how can you be demanding respect? If you are dehumanizing this woman, you can't
But some
expect.
husbands do that, Teddy.
But
So is it
precisely.
that we have some husbands who are baby fathers and some baby fathers who behave like husbands?
That's exactly why I said we should not generalize it.
Interesting. I want to touch on this topic here before we go. We just run a couple of minutes. Just going to do 2 minutes. It says how much. It's our favorite for the category. How much is too much stepchildren? Can stepchildren be too much when entering a marriage? You're going to marry a young lady and she already has 3 children, or 4, or 5, or even 2. How much is too much stepchildren? Can there be too much stepchildren? There is a little proverb or something, and I really don't like it much. If you take the cow, you must take the calf. So, in other words, if you're in love with the woman and you're a married woman, then whatever package she carries in terms of even children. Tell me, Reverend Teddy Jones.
Yeah. All right.
Can there be too many stepchildren entering a marriage?
I don't know about that, Courtney. I mean, so like I said, I grew up with my stepfather. I rate that man. He died in 2013, and I cried. That was when I found out how much I valued him. Right. So I will always say big up to the men who embrace the stepchildren and love them as their own and treat them no differently. It has to be a very individual thing. I don't see how one could say, well, 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 is where you draw the line. Admittedly, there may be economic considerations. And then, of course, depending on the age of the woman, biologically, her child bearing capability based on her age, there are age considerations. Some men will say, I'm fine if she doesn't bear me a child based on where he is, right? So some men might want 2 children, and if the lady has already had 4 and is at a certain age, then that's certainly something that would warrant some amount of discussion. So I think it boils down very much to the individual couple, but it certainly is one of the things that I raise in premarital counseling where that is a factor. Just having the couple talk through that and the implications, the possible implications for their marriage.
Thank you. We always enjoy your expert opinion. Marvin Adetumbi Campbell says, the standard is not too hard for men. That is marriage. This is not a church issue. This is a societal issue. The church is doing a great job in teaching and upholding the standards of marriage. Remember that the church is made up of persons from the wider society. I appreciate your comments, all those who have been commenting. We just have a couple of minutes to wrap up, another 2-3 minutes. Address the issue of our men being husbands. You are part of the church. You yourself are a husband. The benefits of being husband, the characteristics of being husband. Speak to our men, to boys. How do we navigate and ensure that we don't just remain baby fathers?
Right. Yeah. So responsibility is key. Learning the value of taking responsibility, the value of honor, your own values and your personal convictions. What defines you? What is it that you want to be known as and to be known for?
Yes.
So integrity, yeah, honesty. What is it that you would want to pass on to the next generation? Because again, at some point, if you're gonna have children, it's not something that you wait till the time comes to make up as you go along. You have to think it through, right? Then this stability, financial stability, economic stability, very, very, very important for a stable marriage. Money is one of the things that puts a lot of marriages under pressure, a common factor, right? And then in terms of your own convictions, work out the character issues that will help you to survive in a society where the value on marriage itself has been diminished. There is less societal pressure on persons to get married. It's more on the opposite side. No, more persons are opting not to get married, right? So there are these societal changes, right? And then we are in a far more liberal society where sexual values are concerned, and so you're going to have to work out what is going to be your internal locus of control. Is it whether your wife will find out if you're sneaking out, or is it whether you are going to choose to honor your vows and honor your wife because you believe it is the right thing to do? Or is it going to be whether you think you will be found out or not? So if you think you're not going to be found out, then it's okay. You have to
30 seconds, Teddy. 30 seconds. You think a baby father should get become married because he has a child with the mother?
Whatever their nature, be there for that child.
Excellent.
Right? Be there for the child. Raise that child. Play your part in raising that child. You help to bring that child into the world, and you have a responsibility and a privilege of shaping the next the generations to come. Play your part. Stand up for your child with your child.
Thank you, Reverend Teddy Jones, certified life coach, author, husband and father, an entrepreneur. He's a great father and husband. Married since 2012, getting to go into his 10th year next year. Teddy, thanks for being here with us. Thanks for sharing with us. We pray that all our listeners would have been enriched, encouraged, and empowered by what we heard. And so we want to say thanks to our producer, Tony K. Bromfield. Thanks to Timoy Butler for special support. I'm sure I heard Sir Derval Graham this afternoon. Thanks to you, Sir Derval. Indeed, Reverend Teddy Jones. We're just saying thanks once more. This was a program designed for men with guests who are men, hosted by Courtney Morrison and Kevin Bailey, who is not here this week. Enjoy yourself, Kevin. We want to catch you next week, same place, same time. This week was the mailbox. Next week, Monday on the mailbox. Catch up with you. Bless you.